to Week 9 of the Grease League podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to break it down with some NFL matchups, some trade talk, and we're also going to go over some league matchups as well. JB, how about you welcome us in with a couple little words to start the show up?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you. It feels good to be back talking to you guys. Feels good to be back in the Grease League podcast. Feeling extra greasy after this week of action. We had some tough matchups, to say the least. We'll get into it a little bit later. Wanted to give a quick shout out to friend of the program, sponsor. They give us free merch, Jameson, Irish whiskey.
Julian.
You know, drink it with your friends, drink it with your family, drink it by yourself. Just drink Jameson. Go to jameson.com, type in Jameson28, greasy, and get 20% off now.
Wow, that is quite the deal. And honestly, another thing I want to talk about, really, bringing him back, real good friend of the program, really know him personally, Toad Up.
We love Toad Up.
I just want to make some clarities with Toad Up. Toad Up really comes down from the origins of really being pretty tossed. You know what I mean? You're tore up. It's a little bit of a southern term. You're just getting a little trashed, but you're not getting crazy trashed. But at the same time, you're feeling good. So I just want to give a little shout out, a little bit of a logo show real quick. I don't want to get too much of Toad in there, but really enjoy it. Really like the program. And I want to thank you guys for sponsoring us on this show. All right, let's get into it, JB. So, league news for the week. Well, we had the NFL trade deadline ending at 4 p.m. Eastern time today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's coincidental. Do you think Roger Goodell meant to put it on the same day as Election Day?
You never know. I mean, it seems like it's something that they were trying to keep it pretty low-key because it was a very mediocre trade deadline, honestly. That maybe he was just kind of putting it there just so people were just distracted just enough.
If that was their aim, I think mission accomplished because it got buried by the election today. I don't need to explain why. And also, I think more of the important trades happened before the deadline. Really, today was kind of not much action at all, I would say.
I definitely agree. I mean, not a whole lot went on here. So we got some pretty major injury news coming into this week. We got George Kittle out potentially 8 weeks with a broken foot. And
at this point in the season, Jeff, I mean, unless the Niners can pick their way out in that hard NFC West division, that's pretty much the equivalent of I'm coming back next year for George Kittle. It's something you hate to see. He's one of the best tight ends in the league, if not the best. He's really fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. It sucks. I mean, it kills you because then the Niners also got Jimmy G out, too. And, I mean, Jimmy G's been hit or miss, but at the same time, it's a starting quarterback. So now you got Nick Mullins coming in. But we're actually going to break that into our first matchup of the week. It's going to be Packers -5.5 at the Niners. So before I get into the matchup, JB and I want to actually break down a little bit of the spreads on these games and kind of the basics of understanding why they are where they are and what that kind of means for you as a fan watching the game.
Right, so we had a request in our sleeper chat this weekend, I believe, where we wanted some spreads explained to the people who may not be familiar. So if you're trying to sports bet, but have a matchup of two teams, obviously I don't have to explain to you that not every team is built equal. So if you're a betting book, you don't really have a way of getting anybody to bet on the shitty team if you don't give them some kind of incentive. Who's going to bet on the Giants over the Seahawks if they were to play if you don't give them anything? So when you look at that number there, we'll use the first game as an example. The Packers are a -5.5 point favorite over the 49ers. If you ever see a minus sign with the points next to the team name, that means they're the favorite. That go for any sport. If you see a plus sign, it means they're the underdog. 5.5, you're laying points if you're the Packers. So if you're the Packers, you need to win by 6 points or more. That's what's called covering. And if you bet the Packers to cover the number, you'd win the game. If you bet the Niners in the same scenario, the Niners would not have to win the game, but they would have to lose by less than 6 points.
Yep. No, perfectly explained, JB. The only other thing I got to add is my dad explained it the best way for me. When he's watching his teams, when they got a cover, Jets, for example, this past weekend, they were +20.
They did not cover, right?
They did not cover because the Chiefs just steamrolled over them. But basically, you got to start the game off. The game might be 0-0 in the NFL, but you can start it off. The Jets are up 20-0 in that game because they have a +20 spread. So that's one of the best ways to go about it. You always basically add whatever many points to the team that's the underdog. All right, so let's break down to the actual matchups then. So Packers, like we said, are minus 5.5 over the at 49ers. I think that this line, I mean, it's pretty weak because the Packers, I thought they were going to fucking roll over the Vikings. Kudos to them. Dalvin Cook absolutely massacred that Packers defense. Like, went off. And the Packers offense just, they got at some points on the board. 22 points ain't nothing to sneeze at, but they just could not get it all the way. Now, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed. We're talking about he's going to get probably at least 4 touchdowns I'm looking at, and he's going to steamroll over the Niners on Thursday Night Football.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, as somebody who played Dalvin in fantasy last week with 220 yards and 4 touchdowns, he steamrolled me, not just the Packers. So the Packers, they're a team that's looking to bounce back. Aaron Rodgers, he's a fierce competitor. He does not like to lose 2 games in a row. This is a Niners team that's beat the hell up. I think the Packers cover this spread. I think Aaron Rodgers is out on a revenge tour.
I agree. The only caveat I see here is that the Niners do have a good rushing offense, even with some key injuries at their running backs. Kyle Shanahan knows how to run the ball, and that's where the Packers' defense is the easiest to beat. So that's the only way I can see this matchup stay interesting.
Yep. I mean, you never count a Niners team out. They built their team from the bottom up. Their foundation is strong, so their coaching's strong, so you never know what could happen.
Right on. So next we go up to our New York Football Giants versus the Washington Football Team. Giants are +3, meaning that they are underdogs in this game.
Oh, my God.
And, okay, so to go into it, obviously, NFC East teams are the NFC least teams.
Yep.
You got Daniel Jones, who cannot figure out how to make quick decisions or really smart plays. Then you also got Kyle Allen, who is a below-average quarterback himself, but with a formidable front seven on the football team.
Do you know, for this game, what time the game is?
I believe it's a 1 o'clock game.
Okay, because I've been talking about it forever. I am sick and goddamn tired, let me say it for the record, of the Giants being in primetime games. I'm saying this as a Giants fan. I'm saying this to Roger Goodell when you listen to our podcast. Stop fucking put the Giants in primetime. They can't do it. They're god-awful. Just bury us in the 1 o'clocks and let me suffer in peace. With that being said, I'm not surprised we're +3 in this game. The reason for that being the embarrassment that was last night. It's just another example of not being able to play for 60 minutes. But that being neither here nor there, the spread really doesn't surprise me. If we won last night, then we would absolutely be a favorite in this game. But I'll tell you what, the game was close last time. The spread is fair. I think this game is basically a pick'em as far as I'm concerned. So if it was up to me, you might find more value on the money line. And for those of you that don't know gambling, that's taking the team straight up. Yep. And your odds can differ based on that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't really got much else to say on there. JB and I both being Giants fans.
Past it.
So we're going to go on. So we got the Broncos at the Falcons. Broncos are a +4 in this matchup, making them the underdogs. And Broncos were a weird team last week. They got down by a lot against the Chargers last week, and they stormed back. Drew Lock really took that team and brought them up to a victory. Now, can you say the Chargers are another possible collapse team? Yes. Are they also playing another collapse team? Yes. So this game, to me, it's hard to bet. It's hard to bet with the Chargers. It's hard to bet with the Falcons, and it's also hard to bet with the Broncos. It's JB. I don't really know if I have really much to interject here. It's difficult to tell.
I kind of agree with you in a sense. I'll tell you what, the Broncos are a hard team to figure out. They have some good pieces. I don't know what to make of Drew Lock. I just haven't seen enough consistent plays. He's made some good plays, but a lot like our quarterback, he just hasn't been able to string it together. So Broncos, I think, are very much a wild card. The Falcons, to me, even though they have become, make no mistake, ever since that Super Bowl against the Patriots, they have become the team that is finding new ways to lose.
I agree.
They are the best team at snatching a loss from the jaws of victory.
You are right. But then again, Matt Ryan and Julio, as long as Julio Jones is active and healthy, that offense still gets the job done. And that's why this is probably going to be a tight game. And honestly, I don't even think I would pick this one because I have no freaking clue.
Fantasy purposes, I'm hoping Julio goes off.
Oh, I bet you.
Just wanted to put that on the record.
He'll do good.
But you know what? I honestly, if I had to pick an outcome for this game, which I think we should, I would probably take the Falcons -4 here. I think that they are at home. Not that, I think in Georgia they have some fans probably, right? They're deep south, I would imagine.
South state,
yeah.
you can assume.
So I'm going to assume here that they have some fans in the building. Them being at home definitely helps them out. Broncos are going to be, they're going to be no spring chicken. I think it'll definitely be a tough matchup. But 4 is a small number. I think the Falcons can cover that.
Right on. Now, next matchup. I'm looking forward to this one. Get the Seahawks at the Bills, baby. Seahawks -3. So Seahawks are a little bit favored here because you got Russ cooking like nobody else. But you still got a strong Buffalo Bills team that, it's been a little bit tough for Josh Allen lately. I mean, last week's game, you really can't judge too much on it because the weather was horrendous, and it's really tough to gauge off of that. But the Bills' offense has been sputtering a little bit since after the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, they have a juicy matchup against the Seahawks defense, which has been really susceptible to absolutely anything. And the Seahawks, does not matter who they're playing.
Legion of Boom is gone, my friend.
Indeed it is. Gone are the days of Seahawks defense.
Russell Wilson is a hell of a fucking quarterback. He just finds new ways to impress me every week. It just makes me jealous as a football fan looking at fucking Danny Butterfingers that we have. It pisses me off when people call him Danny Dimes. He is no Danny Dimes. With that being said, this game's going to be a fun one. I think the spread should be higher. I actually think, Jeff, this should be maybe a -4.5, -5 point spread for the Seahawks. 5 might be pushing it a little bit, but I would say maybe 4.5 might be a little bit more fair. I get nervous after what I saw from the Bills and the Patriots last week. Having Josh Allen on my team, I was watching that game for a lot on Sunday, and they just look out of sync. And I'll tell you what, if you don't get back into rhythm fast, Russell Wilson's going to put up 3 or 4 touchdowns on you.
No doubt.
So the Bills' only chance in this game is for their defense to be playing lights out, which it hasn't been. Hopefully it gets back to it. And as a Josh Allen fantasy owner, not that you've been playing bad, but you need to get back to your early MVP form earlier this season.
The next matchup here we got is Bears at the Titans. Bears are +5.5, so they're underdog in this one. Oh, God, this Bears team is a pain in the ass to watch. Now, they just trudge their way through each game, keeping it close. And, my God, the Titans last week couldn't even get a rush on the Bengals' offensive line. So, this is going to be my painful game of the week to watch because they're both teams that have good win-loss records. But, I don't know, man. I mean, the Titans looked bad last week. The Bears looked like the Bears last week. I think it's hard for the Titans to cover the 5.5 points against this stout Bears defense.
It's weird because the Bears just kind of feel like a ship without a captain. Like I think after all these years, I've just come to the conclusion that Nick Foles is just not a good quarterback. Like, he had his moment in Philly, and he'll forever be a Philly legend, rightfully so. But the thing about the Bears, their offense is so frustrating, but that defense, I could dream about it. I talk to Aiden, our producer, about Akeem Hicks all the time, and he knows that. The Titans are in disarray. I mean, you and I rode them all the way to the playoffs last year. They have not looked like that team.
Well, they started the season off that way, I would say. They've just been having a tough time against good matchups. And, I mean, they played the game against the Steelers the week prior pretty close. This past week at the Bengals was pretty bad. I think it was uncharacteristic. But I think, I hate to do it because I always feel dirty, but I think I'm going to go Bears +5.5 because with the spread, I think they'll keep it close. And even if they lose the game, they'll do it in very heartbreak fashion and keep it tight.
If I'm going straight up on this game, I have to trust that Derrick Henry and that offense will get it done. But if the Bears are getting 5.5 points, I like them to cover that. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game, too.
Agree with that. All right, and our next matchup of the week is the Ravens at the Colts. The Ravens are -2.5 points here. And honestly, the Ravens' offense has looked rough because Lamar Jackson looks like he can no longer throw a football, and that's worrisome because this Colts defense has been legit. And the Steelers defense, I think, is a little bit better, but honestly, it's going to be a pretty similar matchup that they had last week against the Steelers. So I'm not happy because I'm a Lamar Jackson owner, but I really feel like the Colts defense might stifle this Ravens team because they've been pretty good against the run, which is what they only are able to do.
Not to allude to another section, but I think a hot take just popped up in my brain, so I'll save that for later.
Ooh, sounds good.
The Colts are the Colts. I think Philip Rivers has brought over a little bit of that Chargers curse to the Colts. They're a hard team to get a read on. They're not a bad team, but they're not a great team. I like the Ravens to cover 2.5 against them. I think their defense is pretty legit, but I think Lamar finds a way, and a 2.5 point spread is a pretty small spread. If you ask me if the Ravens were going to cover a bigger number, I might take the Colts, but give me the Ravens on this
I
one.
could definitely see this as a get back game for the Ravens too, so I'll take the Ravens here as well. So the next game moving into it is we got the Carolina Panthers at the Chiefs. Panthers are plus 11 points, and it makes a lot of sense because Kansas City Chiefs will not be quiet. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, they don't even need a running game. They don't. They're just going to pass the ball on you for 1 million yards per game, and they got receiver talent, they got pass-catching talent, crazy, like absolutely crazy offense, and they still got a decent defense because of the fact that their defense gets to sit on the sideline half the game because Mahomes is just driving the ball down the field, and they get to hang out there in the bench, come in for 10 minutes a game, and that's that. I can see the Chiefs covering this line, no problem.
You know what, Jeff? The Chiefs were literally swag surfing on the Jets this past Sunday. And I know it's the Jets. They're far and away the worst team in the league. But the Panthers, they have not been all too impressive. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, he's been Teddy Bridgewater. I think it may be growing pains around him a little bit. I think he's got to adjust to the new system. I think Matt Rule, coming in as a college coach, he's 7 weeks into his job, so you'll see how that progresses over the season. But the game for them to get better is not against the Chiefs.
Definitely.
The Chiefs, in my opinion, are on the verge of becoming the next Bill Belichick Patriots dynasty. You have such a beautiful system in place there, and color me surprised if they won the Super Bowl again this year. So I think the Chiefs covering 11 against the Panthers isn't ridiculous. I would definitely hammer that.
I agree with you there, man. All right, so we're going to break into the second half of our matchups for the week. So we got Lions at Vikings. Lions are +4 in this matchup as the underdogs. Now, one thing I will say, because I've been stoutly following the Lions, is that not having Kenny Golladay hurts Matthew Stafford a lot because of the fact that Kenny Golladay is his safety valve for a lot of plays. Because of the fact that he can catch a lot of things that come his way, whether it's a third down play, whether it's ball down the field, and the rest of that receiving core does not have the talent to really keep up with really what Stafford might want to push the ball down the field with.
Let me start off by saying that I'm very happy that the rumors that Dave Gettleman were going to trade for Kenny Golladay aren't true, because that would have been Leonard Williams 2.0. Although I will say, Leonard, if you're listening, I've actually liked you as a Giant, even though I still think the trade was stupid. That's not to detract from Kenny Golladay, because Kenny Golladay is a hell of a receiver, and him and Stafford definitely have a chemistry. I mean, I think that the Lions normally could cover a spread like this because the Vikings have been pretty awful this season, and I'll be honest, I really didn't expect that. But the Vikings dismantled the Packers last Sunday, and Dalvin Cook, oh my God. I mean, I played him in my other league. You have him. I don't really need to talk about him more than that. Chris, you have a hell of a running back. I think the Vikings cover this. I think they carry that momentum. I think the Lions are a very shaky team. You know more about them than I do. And as you said before, Kenny Galladay's out. And will he be playing next week? No?
Nope, not supposed to.
So I think my pick is pretty obvious here. Vikings -4.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Next matchup, I really don't give a shit about.
Yeah, let's just breeze through it.
Texans at Jaguars. Texans -7. Both teams are trash. AFC South trash. No Gardner Minshew for the Jaguars. -7. I think that the Texans can stomp over the Jaguars. I'll take that -7, to be honest with you.
Gardner Minshew's not even playing as far as I know. And the Jaguars, to me, just aren't even like a real NFL team. They almost just seem made up. They play in London like 3 or 4 times more than every other team, and it's really weird. They're in no man's land. I feel like they've been in no man's land ever since they had Maurice Jones-Drew. Or actually, no, 2017 they were pretty good.
They had 1 year.
They had their 1 year. Give me Deshaun Watson. Let's just move on.
Yep.
This matchup I won't be watching.
I agree with you. The next one is another divisional matchup, which I think will be at least a little bit more interesting because you got the Las Vegas Raiders at the LA Chargers, and the Raiders are +1.5, so it's pretty much a pick'em game because 1.5 points indicates that really any team can win by a field goal here, and I think it's pretty accurate because the Raiders have looked pretty solid. Chargers have looked solid as well, even though they can never find a win. And it sucks because you got Justin Herbert, who's been killing it, really. Like, he had a little bit of a suspect game against the Broncos, but he still played pretty formidable. And otherwise,
Justin Herbert a lot.
Oh, dude, he's been so good. But the Raiders themselves, like Derek Carr has been a good game manager for that team. He can still put up yards when they need it. And the Raiders as a whole have really been on the come up.
I'll tell you what, Jeff. I'm very excited for this game, actually. Shout out Ryan Jensen, but he's a huge Raiders fan. So
And
I feel
Chris
like
Lazo, shout out.
Shout out Chris Lazo as well. Josh Jacobs, I think he could have a big game this game. I think this game is going to be fun. I think the spread is very reflective of how close this is going to be. I think the Raiders can pull this one out. I think the Chargers have had that habit. They're almost becoming Falcons-like in a way, the way they're losing some of these leads that they've been playing. Yep. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to be within 2 or 3 points. So either way, if the game's within 2 or 3 points and your team, does what it has to do, you cover. So I would take the Raiders at +1.5.
I agree with you on that one because I think the Raiders know how to finish games. They've been shown that in their wins this year.
Yep.
All right, the next matchup is pretty trash.
Fuck the Cowboys.
Fuck the Cowboys, no doubt about that. So you got the Steelers -13.5 points at the Cowboys because the Cowboys have a shell of a team right now. I mean, you don't have Dak. You don't even have Dalton. And even now they're talking about Ben DiNucci might not be playing because they're going to try out Cooper Rush. I mean, it's horrible.
I'll tell you what, Jeff. If I said I felt bad for the Cowboys, I'd be lying to you.
Oh, I love it.
Fuck the Cowboys. It makes me so happy. I mean, my team is awful, but misery loves company. You know the saying. I think this spread can easily be covered by the Steelers. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if it was -9, -10, something like that. For all the non-gamblers out here, the Steelers have to win by 2 touchdowns here if you take them for you to win money. I think they can do that. I think this Cowboys team is in disarray. I think they may find their way once Andy Dalton comes back. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I don't think he's an awful quarterback. He's definitely an upgrade over Ben DiNucci, and he's definitely an upgrade over Cooper Rush. Give me the Steelers -13.5. Also, shout out Avery Williamson, linebacker from the Jets, friend of Joe and Evan, who just got traded there.
Yep. I pretty much agree with you right there, JB. I think the Steelers are going to steamroll this one. Easy game, easy life to be a Steelers fan for the next week, and they're going to cruise their way to 8-0.
Shout out Shannon and John from UPS, the only 2 Steelers fans I know.
Right on. All right, guys, moving on to the next game. We got Dolphins at the Cardinals. The Dolphins are +4 in this matchup, meaning they're the underdog. This one is going to be really interesting because last week against the Rams, the Dolphins defense game planned so damn well. And then you didn't have to see Tua do much at all because, hey, when your defense and your special teams scores you 21 points, you're not supposed to do much after that point. You're just supposed to manage the game. I want to see, and I think Tua's going to need to, against this Cardinals team has been looking real hot, actually put up some points and go toe-to-toe with Kyler Murray this week.
This game will be interesting. I wish Tua Tagovailoa nothing but the best. To mention Bruce, who also watches college football as much as I do, watching Tua at Alabama was special, and I think that it would be very fun. I think him versus Kyler Murray is an awesome matchup. You got the Oklahoma and you got the Alabama. It's juicy. The Dolphins' defense, I mean, their defense and special teams, I'll tell you what, Tua better be taking them out to dinner after last week. I think the Cardinals have a really good infrastructure. Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins have just been absolutely lights out.
Yep.
I think that anything can happen with this game, but if I'm a betting man and I'm taking this game, I would take the Cardinals at -4. I think they can take this one. I think the key factor in this game, Jeff, and it easily could go the other way, is the play of Tua.
I agree. I
think that's the factor of this game.
I think that Tua getting his first game of his NFL career out of the way with a cakewalk actually might help him, because now he doesn't walk into this next game with that kind of pressure.
Because Kyler Murray is gonna be Kyler Murray,
and he will. But it's not a divisional matchup; it's an interconference. So I think that he's going to probably do a good job with it. So now we got 2 more matchups in the week. I don't even want to give a shit about the Monday night matchup because of the fact that it's going to be a trash heap. So honestly, Sunday Night Football this coming up week is going to be exciting. You got the Saints at the Buccaneers, divisional matchup. Saints are +5.5, which is more than I would expect because this Saints team has been looking good, but that Buccaneers team has looked lethal. Tom Brady looks like he's turned back time once again, and he's got the offense working well. Their defense has a bunch of all-pros. They got fucking all-stars. They got great players on them that it's going to be really, really hard for this Saints team to beat them on Sunday night.
Shout out Rigel for having Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski on his team. I'll tell you what, Jeff, this matchup, all betting aside, is going to be very fun to watch. But with that being said, I think it's a hard game to call because Drew Brees has not been Drew Brees this season. I don't even know if Michael Thomas is ever going to see the field again. I have no idea what's going on with him. It seems like there's always something new that's coming up. I feel bad for Jason. He took him. But with that being said, Drew Brees, he kind of is getting to that Peyton Manning noodle arm to me point. You don't see him make a lot of deep down the field throws anymore, and no disrespect to him in the career he's had. I mean, he still can pull it together, but he ain't what he used to be. The Buccaneers, they also scare me because they only won by 2 points and were shut out for a half touchdown-wise by a Giants team that we know better than anybody has been awful.
Yep.
So I think the Buccaneers, if I had to take this game, I would actually bet the Saints +5.5. I think that spread is a little bit too high. If you gave me the Bucs -3 or -4, I would probably take them. But I think this game is going to be decided pretty close. And if it's not, then it's going to be made clear very quickly who's coming out on top.
I'll disagree because I think the Bucs can definitely cover that line, but I really do believe that this Buccaneers team is legit, and I think the Giants just played up to their level last week.
Ooh, wait. I forgot Antonio Brown's coming back
next week. He's also coming back next week. It's going
to
be interesting.
This one's going to be a tough one, yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to break into the last match of the week, which I really don't care too much about because the Patriots at the Jets on Monday Night Football. Patriots are -7. And I think Cam Newton, it's your get-right game. You're going to steamroll over the Jets, who look horrible. No matter what, Bill Belichick loves to absolutely murderate the Jets. And I think it's kind of an open and shut case. I'll take the Patriots -7.
I think there's no better example than last year when Bill Belichick and the Patriots won 33-0 in the IC Ghost game for Sam Darnold, if you remember that.
Yep.
This Jets team is awful, but this Patriots team is not what it once was. I have to take the Patriots -7 here, but I don't feel as comfortable as I would in other years doing it. I've looked at the Jets' schedule. I don't see really any wins on it from here on out. And if I had to pick one win for them, as weird as it may sound, given the last 20 years, maybe one of these matchups, I think it'll be the Patriots.
Quite possibly this year. All right, guys. So after the NFL matchups this week, I know JB does have his hot take of the week. So let me hear it.
I do have one hot take. After seeing him, it jogged my memory when we were talking about the Ravens matchup. And I'm not saying this will happen, but that's why it's a hot take. I think that once the Ravens get to the playoffs, that Lamar's weaknesses are going to be exposed again. And maybe this time it'll be in the AFC Championship instead of in the semifinals. But I don't know. I think if you game plan for the Ravens by putting a spy on Lamar and making him throw more often than he runs, I think he can throw the ball, but I don't want him consistently throwing the ball. I think Lamar is at his most effective when he's able to do both and mix both. And I think Lamar breaks down on game-winning drives when he can't really run the ball, because if you get tackled in bounds, you're going to lose time in the game. And I think that hurts him, as great of a quarterback as he is. And I have a hard time seeing the Ravens make it to the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, I really do agree with you, because I think that his rushing ability is incredible, and I think his passing ability is suspect. It's last year on his MVP year, his passing ability was pretty damn good. Titans just had an incredible game plan for him in the playoffs that I don't think that other teams might have been able to take care of. I think the Chiefs
and the rest of the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit.
But I think other teams now have picked that up and have gotten enough good talent on their inside linebacker core. So you're still going to see Lamar put up good numbers against teams that don't really have good linebackers, but I kind of agree with JB, and it sucks because I am a Lamar owner.
I love Lamar too, man. I hate to say it, but I got to be honest. If there's one thing we are on this podcast, we're fair.
Exactly. Except to Steve. Shout out, Steve.
I'm fair to Steve.
All right, guys. So we want to go into our league matchup breakdowns this week. We got ourselves a toilet bowl matchup in the first one because there's a lot of bye weeks from the best players in this one, and I hope you guys take all the offense to it. So you got Team Mr. Katana versus Team A. Brownham. So Jason, your team right now, it's in a rough spot because you got Travis Fulgham and T. Higgins out this week. So your best players, obviously you got Travis Kelce, absolute stud, tight end number 1 on the year, and he's looking like he's not slowing down. You got Brandon Ayuk, who, hey, with Debo out, the kid's got some talent. It really does. And I think that he's going to be solid for you. And then your next best guy, in my opinion at least, is Devin Singletary, who last week Zach Moss took the better of the carries. He got the goal line downs. He got the goal line carries. So, yeah, Singletary had good yards. He played well on an NFL scale. But in fantasy, it seems like Zach Moss might be the guy to own if he's getting goal line carries.
It's been that was a very in-depth analysis. It was nice, Jeff.
No, I appreciate it.
Very knowledgeable guy, right?
Yeah, I've been looking at Jason's team a lot for trades, and thank God, Jason. Shout out Jason. He didn't take my trades because otherwise I'd be in a much worse hole right now.
Jason, I want to apologize while we're on the podcast. Speak to you heart to heart. It was a tough loss for you. I would have felt awful in your position. I really don't feel great in my position. Winning by .12 in an 80-something point matchup really isn't all that impressive. But as I said in the chat last night, if I had to watch my own quarterback lose me the week in fantasy, I'd be on the Brooklyn Bridge last night. So I'm just glad that didn't
Shout
happen.
out mental health.
Shout out mental health, man, because the Giants drive me fucking nuts.
Indeed. And so you got Brownham, so Abraham's team over there. So Robbie Anderson, I think he's been the player to watch this season. He's really come out in that Panthers offense looking like the true number 1 wide receiver.
Shout out Joe Douglas for looking like a fool. For those that don't know, the Jets general manager who didn't re-sign Robbie Anderson.
Indeed. So, I mean, Robbie has been a true wide receiver 1 for them. Teddy loves throwing to him. Last week, they had a rough go-about against the Falcons for whatever reason it was, but Robbie's been locked and loaded for you. I mean, he got Drew Brees, and it's a tough matchup. He's going against the Buccaneers this week, so it's a good defense. Brees might get exposed a little bit because, like JB did mention earlier, Brees has been struggling down the field, and they have such a good front seven that if you keep it all underneath, you might not get what you need. Now, if Michael Thomas somehow comes back, we would never know if he will. It does change Drew Brees into a better option this week coming up.
I'll tell you what, man. This will be a fun matchup. I think for Jason, I think you've got a real chance of winning here. I think for Abraham, hey, man, you started at 0-3, and your team's been rolling. You got to do whatever you can to keep rolling. And we'll see how it ends up. Jason, Trust your heart. Don't second guess yourself. I know you were upset about not starting the right guys, and believe me when I say it happens to all of us. I look at it all the time. But you can't change what happens in the past. Go with your first choice. Don't second guess yourself. Put your best lineup together, and hopefully we get a good matchup here.
Yeah, because honestly, Abe, you got a few good guys on bye week this week, or just injured. So having to have Leonard Fournette, in my opinion, as your third best player in your team.
By the way, take Miles Sanders out of your lineup. I see him in there right now.
It is only Tuesday, but just in case, Abraham, make sure you do. All right, guys. So
Eagles are also on a bye week, by the way.
Also true.
I need to mention.
So now we got the next matchup. We got college roommates going against each other. We got Team Our Cars versus the Mookie Men.
Yes,
and,
sir.
JB, you want to weigh in on your matchup a little bit?
Oh, man, I'm nervous about it, man. My narrow victory over Jason last week we will take. But we've got some decisions over at the Mookie Men squad. We got some big decisions to make. Some of my players have not been playing up to their potential lately. Zeke, the running back that he is, hell of a running back, has been hurt by the Cowboys situation. I think his value will go back up when Andy Dalton comes back in, but until then, it's, maybe he's good for 10 points, 15 points if you're lucky, but we'll see. Julio, I think, has the potential to go off, but he's competing with Rob's player, Calvin Ridley.
Which may or may not be in this week.
Ooh, I did not know that juicy information.
He is questionable because he did get injured in the last game against the Panthers. Now, I don't think I've seen injury reports trending in a downward direction, but there always is that risk that's associated with it.
I'll tell you what, which I didn't know until I pulled up the lineups just now, is that as of right now, Rob is starting Matt Ryan, so he would be poaching any of my Julio points. Let me say, Rob, and I'll tell you about the podcast after. It's probably a better start over Carson Wentz because he has looked terrible.
Also, Carson Wentz is on bye week, so you'd get it guaranteed 0.
Right, which you did say before.
I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good, of course. Otherwise, though, Rob's team has looked really good, honestly. I mean, I think his team on paper, it's nice. You got
Lost
James.
a tough matchup last week. I thought he was going to win.
I agree with you there. I mean, it's never easy to lose close games. There were a lot of close games last week, guys. But, hey, Rob's got these boom players. I mean, Tyler Lockett put up 54, 53 points against Steve the week prior.
I'll tell you what makes me nervous about the fucking Seahawks, man. Russell Wilson just trades between DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, depending on which week. Either one of them, I feel like you're going to have maybe 15 points for Tyler Lockett and then 40 for DK. Or you'll have like 15 points for DK and 45 for Lockett. And there's like no in between. He just decides which receiver he's going to feed for the entire game. And let me just pray that it's not Lockett. And I hope Chris would probably pray for that too, that it's DK.
No, exactly.
Shout out DK, Big Ape.
And honestly, this week, one of the things I would be most concerned about with Rob's team is that they're playing against a horrible Cowboys defense. So you got James Conner on his team that probably is going to get a lot of room to run this week and a lot of action because the Steelers are going to be up big. They're going to be relying on the running back because they're going to get up quick on the Cowboys. And, I mean, it's not going to be a hard game at all for them.
Yeah, it makes me nervous, man. I mean, we'll see. Blessed that I'm 6-2 at this point. We do have room to drop one. My whole theme throughout the year has been just don't drop 2 in a row. And we've stuck with that so far. So hopefully if we do lose this week, we won't drop a second one.
There you go.
I don't have a lot of confidence in my team, but hey, I'd like to beat Rob because fuck you, Rob.
All right, guys. Our next matchup then would be the Day Drinkers versus Hairless Chimps. That's Rigel's team versus Dan's team. Rigel's team, man, he's got some good players on his squad. I mean, you got Alvin Kamara, who's been a bona fide top 2 guy this year, besides Dalvin Cook. Thank you very much. But otherwise, Alvin Kamara has been fantastic. He has not been able to find the end zone for a few weeks now in a row.
Did Dalvin Cook overtake Alvin Kamara in the rankings this week?
He's down by half a point.
Okay, so retract your statement.
Top 2 in my mind, thank you very much. Dalvin Cook was injured 1 week and had a bye week. But point being, Alvin Kamara is an absolute stud, and listen, he has not been able to find the end zone, but has been consistently scoring over 20 points 3 weeks in a row. That is scary. That is a bad sign for Dan's team because it sounds like Kamara, yes, it's a Buccaneers team with a good defense, but you can't stop talent like that. Kamara's going to get his points. He's going to get his, and he's probably going to find his way into the end zone this week.
Especially, I mean, we're going back to the same conversation, I feel like, because you think about what I said before, what you also harped on before, the Drew Brees noodle arm. That helps Alvin Kamara as a running back, because if your quarterback is not playing up to his standard, then your next logical move is to run it up their throat, and that's what the Saints
Or
do.
pass it short to your running back.
I know, and that's the beautiful thing about Alvin Kamara, I think. And maybe Le'Veon will get the chance, but he reminds me a lot of Le'Veon. Just a lethal runner. He can catch whatever ball you throw to him and get yards after the catch, which is important. So, I mean, hey, I lost to Rigel. Playing Alvin Kamara is scary. Dan, the thing I will say that you have going for you is that the fantasy intellect. Dan is not a dumb fantasy player. Dan knows what he's doing. I think he's got some big players in this week. I think Tyreek Hill always has the chance to boom. He could explode at any point in time. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and we went over that matchup earlier. I think that'll be a good one.
Yep.
The thing I will say is that I could see this going either way, but Rigel, let me give you credit, and we'll get into it later. Dumb trade aside, that I think you put together a hell of a team this year, and your record reflects it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, now our next matchup of the week is the Hot Ones versus Porch Moochers. So you got Bruce versus Chris's team. Now, Bruce's team, they got some steady players on them. I mean, obviously, you got the quarterback one on the year, Kyler Murray, on Bruce's team. So that guy's always going to get you your points. I mean, he has been fantastic for his team. He's definitely got the job done. And then Todd Gurley, he's been a touchdown machine for the Falcons. He does not quite get the yards that he used to, but, man, he does get it done. And honestly, Bruce, got to give you a lot of credit on getting Chase Claypool. I think that he was a great waiver pickup. He's been pretty consistent now. He had that crazy game, but man, he's incorporated in the Steelers' offense, so he's a threat. And yeah, the rest of your team, rough sledding a little bit. You're missing your boy Tyler Boyd, who's been really good, obviously to a bye week, and then you got Amari Cooper in this week, so that's pretty cool. You got whoever the hell is going to throw to him against the Steelers, right? Oh, yeah, great. So Amari Cooper probably is going to get 60 yards in the last 2 minutes of the game to get the Cowboys a nice 30-7 loss. That's what I'm calling. And on the other side of the fence, you got Mr. Juggernaut himself, Chris's team. And my God, you just go through his lineup and you're just like, Jesus Christ, who do I want to even play against in his team? I mean, you got D-Hop, you got Terry McLaurin, F1 McLaurin, you got James Robinson, you got DK Metcalf, and you got Russ, who's cooking like nobody's business. Like, it's just, who wants to play Chris? Who likes it? It's not fun for anybody involved. Chris seems like he doesn't even like playing his team sometimes. Honestly, he seems like he's upset half the time he's playing his team, but then his team just comes out and just cream pies everybody.
Chris. I'm not looking forward to our matchup. Maybe like Steve or like Rigel or somebody who likes to take quarterbacks. Just do us all a favor and take Russell Wilson early next year. Love you, Chris. I mean, Bruce, I think your team gives you a good shot. I'm not going to sit here and say that you don't have a chance of winning because I think you do. But, I mean, Chris's team just kind of speaks for itself. You can just kind of take a look at it, and I think you realize that.
Yep, because it doesn't even matter who he puts in. His bench, his starters, it's just the whole team. They're good, and they got good matchups too this week. Like I know
they're
Bruce,
all in the green,
our producer,
man. They're
wanted
all
to
in the
highlight
green.
it. They are all in the green. I don't take all that into account because green could just barely mean they are slightly a good play.
The computer is not always right, my friend.
That is true, but eye test, stat test, everything. That team top to bottom is nutty. All right, guys. We're going to move on to my matchup of the week. You got Spanky's Fun Bunch versus the San Francisco 69ers. It's Jeff's team versus Lazo's team. So, hey, I got my nice top-heavy team. Got your nice Devontae Adams, got your nice Dalvin Cook, and then hopefully, please, for the love of God, Lamar Jackson pulls it together. And we got a nice, solid trio of players coming in. Everybody after that, it's a crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get. JB, you have any weigh in on this one?
I mean, Lazo's team is scary good. Jeff, you're in a little bit of trouble, mate. Mm-hmm. I did not expect you to lose this week. And, I'm not going to trash your team because I think it's good, but... and you're the trade master. I'm sure you got some shit cooking up in your brain. I'm sure you got some stuff going on, but hey, I didn't expect you to drop this one. So this is an important matchup for you.
It's a big week.
It's a statement week, I think. It'll be a close one, I think. Lazo's got a lot of firepower. You've got a lot of firepower. Pat Mahomes, Josh Jacobs. I mean, they're two hell of they're both fucking good football players. Devontae, Dalvin. I mean, we saw what Dalvin did last week. What you gotta, I think, do to win this matchup this week is strengthen your flex and make sure that your wide receivers aren't getting 2 points.
Hey, I will say you're right about that because you can't go into a matchup in a week
because your studs are going to be your studs.
Of course. Now, you don't, your other players can do a little bit worse, but you don't expect 5 players out of your 9 on your team to get less than 2 points, especially when they're not no-name players. They just all happen to have absolute poop games at the same time.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Thanks for my that was my TED Talk. Thanks.
That was a beautiful TED Talk.
All right, but I won't go too long into that one, honestly. It should be a good matchup. Last matchup of the week, our favorite matchup always, is Dr. Bauchi's Annie Theodote versus the Kinky Bean Fellas. So this one takes place versus good old...
Hold on. Before you go, I got to say, it's interesting you pronounce it that way. I think our producers may have spelled it wrong.
No, that's actually the way that...
They definitely spelled it.
That's the way that he has it spelled in Sleeper.
I believe it's pronounced Dr. Bauchi's Anididote.
Oh,
I think I think you need to delete an O there. But with all that being said, I love the name. And I mean, Kinky Bean Fellas. I mean, fellas? Can I say less? Can I say more? This will be a fun one. Steve's team has showed up. And I think it will again this week against Aiden's team. We got an interesting matchup between those two. Some of their key players would be Ronald Jones, some Justin Herbert action. Justin Herbert I've loved, by the way. I think he's been one of the better rookies in this draft so far. Corey Davis has been a bit of a silent killer the past couple weeks, I think.
He's been getting great target share. He's been really pulling at his targets as well, and he's found the end zone a couple times.
I'll tell you what, man, in a PPR league, Corey Davis is a solid ad.
He's been good, man. I got to say, he's maybe having his own Devontae Parker come-out party. I mean, sometimes, it does not happen often. Guys 4 or 5 years in the league somehow just figure it out. And, Titans' offense has been good. Tannehill has been really good for him. And, Derrick Henry opens up a lot because everybody's focused on the run. So you got one-on-one matchups a lot of times, especially with A.J. Brown taking the best coverage. So, Corey Davis, he's been solid, man. He's looking like a good wide receiver, too, rest of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like Aiden's team, too, in this matchup. I think Aiden's becoming a little bit of a sneaky guy. I think he's doing some moves behind the scenes. He's slowly creeping his way up the rankings, too. Aiden, believe it or not, actually has more points total for the season scored than me. But I'm 2 games ahead of him for the fantasy gods.
You have good defense.
I do have good defense. And usually in the past, I don't have good defense. So it's nice having a good defense for once.
I did want to put one thing of note. So Ronald Jones, he's been a good player at times, but now Bruce Arians is the most fickle coach to play under as a running back because if you saw the Giants game, Jones has one fumble.
Can I interject for one
right,
second about Bruce Arians? Bruce Arians looked like the He looked like he had the thing from Spy Kids last night, that spectacle glass. Did you see his glasses behind that visor? It looked like he was wearing 2 or 3 sets of glasses. And it looked like he had the zoom lens from Spy Kids on. I love Bruce Arians' outfits. I just had to say that.
He's a crazy guy, man. And I mean, his craziness on his fashion takes and his play calling and the way he manages his team, man. I mean, that's one of the things about being a running back on his teams that sucks, is that you fumble one time, you're in the doghouse, and that's it. Leonard Fournette had most of the carries this past game. But if Fournette comes out and fumbles in the first drive of the game, you will not see him until, who knows?
You fumble with Bruce Arians, you're going to the goddamn gulag as far as I'm concerned.
If I'm Steve here, I'm hoping to God Fournette fumbles next week so Ronald Jones eats up all those carries.
And Ronald Jones will eat because he's hungry.
Oh, he is, baby. Now, speaking of hungry men, we got ourselves Derrick Henry, who's a big boy.
Who is just a god among men.
Oh, man, he's a big boy.
Need I bring up the Derrick Henry next to Mark Ingram picture, which is just insane. And if you don't know what that is, just Google Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and see for yourself, because you'll love to see that picture.
You got yourself right about that.
Derrick Henry is I can't say enough good things about him. He's just an absolute beast of a running back. He tears through basically any defense I've ever seen. Not to say he's perfect, but I would be nervous about playing Derrick Henry any week of the season. Deshaun, I gotta say, even on a Texans team where I feel the executives have no idea what they're doing, Deshaun has been Deshaun. And it really just is a testament to what he is as a player. And I just also want to take this time to shade the Bears, because they took Mitch Trubisky when they could have had Deshaun Watson, who had won a championship at Clemson that year. To me, it was the obvious choice at the time. I don't know why they took Mitch Trubisky, but this is the way it is.
Yeah, and then also the rest of Aiden's team is really looking nice now, because McCaffrey is actually looking to start his first game in a long time now. So that's going to be big, I mean, for Aiden's team. You get a bona fide number one next to your other number one running back, and you got yourself a squad, because he's got a solid wide receiver core besides that. And, man, I mean, it's a tough team. Steve's going to have a hard matchup, but I think it should be solid. I mean, Steve's team's been putting up points. He's been staying competitive in these games. And I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup because, I mean, Aiden's team loves to boom or bust. So, you know, Aiden's team can put up 80 points this week after being projected to hit 130. You never know.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, for the record, no offense to our producer, Steve, you've got my endorsement this week, buddy. I hope you win.
All right, nice. So, guys, next thing we're going to break down into is our league activity. So we actually have not had nearly the amount of trades that we had last time around, which would have been kind of crazy if we did.
To me, it's a bit relieving because it was very hard to keep track of everything that was happening the past week or two.
It absolutely was freaking crazy. So we only have 4 trades to really go over, guys. So it's a couple of the first ones that happened. So from my team to Rido's team, it was DJ Moore and Rams defense for Kenny Golladay. And I'll be honest, at the time, and I still do, no matter what the injury, I think that's a steal because I do not value a defense that highly unless you were talking about a bona fide number one defense.
Amen, buddy.
Because it's all about matchup dependent.
Circa Patriots defense first 10 weeks of the season last year.
Exactly. And DJ Moore has been incredibly touchdown reliant in my experience with him. And I like Kenny Golladay. I think he really is the engine of the Lions offense. And hopefully he'll come back and it won't bite me in the ass.
I've thought for a lot. I will say this now on the record for the podcast. I've thought a lot of this season that DJ Moore was always a smart pick for you. He was never on my radar at the beginning of the season, I have to admit. But it was a smart pick by you, and I think Rigel's getting a good receiver in that trade. As of right now, with Galladay's injury status, I would say Rigel probably wins the trade. But I think in the long term that it'll end up coming true and being a good thing for both of you guys.
Yeah, it's always tough to trade up for a guy who's not a definite upgrade, but you gotta always make your faith picks too.
I like the trade. I think it's a fair trade for both parties, and I think given the circumstances, it could benefit both parties
for sure.
too.
Next trade up is also from me. Then it's to Dan. So I traded Dan Jonathan Taylor, who I just recently acquired, for Melvin Gordon and Deontay Johnson. And, I'm really just hoping that Jonathan Taylor for Melvin Gordon and Deontay Johnson would really pan out later on, because Deontay gave me a big old stink eye this week, and, it kind of hurts a little bit, makes me not so warm inside. Melvin had an okay week, but Lindsey's been kind of stealing a lot of the rushes, so JB, I'm hoping that trade works for me in the future.
I would think it's kind of a risky trade for you, Jeff. The only thing I would say, Melvin Gordon, he's mostly up, but he can be down. And when he's down, he's usually very down, especially with some of the legal issues he's had this season. Just added distractions, and it makes me feel like he might not be getting as many carries as Phillip Lindsay. Well, he'll get more carries than Phillip Lindsay, but Phillip Lindsay will maybe be incorporated into that offense more, taking away from him. Jonathan Taylor isn't a boom player, but he's a consistent player. He'll get you at least 15 points a week, which can be very valuable for a fantasy player. I'm not saying it's a bad trade, but I may not have made it myself. Well, so only time will tell how it pans
fair enough,
out.
man. You got to shoot from the hip sometimes, and sometimes you don't hit. All right, our next trade here.
I'm not going to question your judgment,
And our next trade here, he shot from the hip, and he missed about 10 feet to the right. So we got Jason to Aiden. Jason gave a hobbled Michael Thomas, who the fuck knows when he's coming back, and a George Kittle who broke his foot, so he's not supposed to be expected back until week 17. For Travis, number 1 tight end of the year by a wide margin, Kelsey.
Who's basically a wide receiver 1, as our producer Bruce kindly pointed out.
And Aiden, I just do not know what the hell you were thinking. I mean, I'll be honest, the prospect of Michael Thomas sounds juicy. It sounds like, oh man, what a great player. But you have Travis fucking Kelsey, who you already know is a stud, who already has the work, I don't know. I don't get this one.
All I'm going to say, I didn't know you felt this strongly about this, but I kind of like it, because I don't feel as strong as you do, but at the same time, I was thinking that. I almost want to bring him on to defend himself if he's okay with it, but it rings eerily reminiscent to me of last year when Aiden's downfall was taking a gamble on too many players where their injury timeline was either uncertain or far down the line in the season. And to me, that's very much a gamble.
Yeah.
Bring me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Let's get a couple words from Aiden over here.
Well, yeah, friend of the program, producer. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the guy. He's got a beautiful mustache. He's also sponsored by Jameson Irish Whiskey. They give us merch, free t-shirts. Drink it with your friends. Drink it with your family. Drink it by yourself. Just drink Jameson. Aiden.
I'll say this is probably one of my riskier moves ever. And I'll take the flack if it doesn't pan out. I get it. I know all your concerns.
Respect.
But I know how I've been trading this whole year and how I drafted. And all my trades have gone very well. And I think I know what these players will do from their past experience. So
I
we'll
want to correct you from saying players plural. First of all, because you have a bench ornament right now in George Kittle.
You don't know that.
He has a broken foot, which they are already saying.
He had a broken knee last year and played through it.
It does not matter because they already said 8 weeks on this. On a 49ers team.
They put him on IR to come, and he wants to come back.
I'm sure he wants to come back. I'm quite positive. So
they could inject him with what's that one steroid called? They give to Aaron Hernandez all the time. It began with a T. It was
mescaline.
Regardless, he wasn't what the initial trade was about. It's Michael Thomas.
Correct. That's fine. And Michael Thomas has been quite the. Who knows what's going to happen?
He's going to come back.
Aiden, I give this trade an F.
All right, fair. Move on to the next one then.
All right.
We love you, buddy.
Aiden, in this next one, you do redeem yourself because Rigel makes a horrible trade.
Yeah, no, Aiden, absolutely.
So, Rigel trades away Devontae Parker and Mark Andrews. And now, I will say, I try to ration it.
You traded away Mandrews.
I will ration it because, hey, Mandrew's stock this season has not been great. Lamar's not been throwing the ball well, but the Ravens have better matchups coming up. And Rigel, he already has Gronk, and if he likes Gronk a lot, Gronk's been getting a touchdown now a few weeks in a row.
You could even flex Mandrews.
You could flex Mandrews, but I understand that. And then Devontae Parker, hey, Tua coming, and Devontae has been a little bit hobbled here and there, but he's been playing. I get it. Now, for a better player, I understand it. For Randall fucking Cobb, who in Rigel's mind, he's like, oh, trade deadlines today. Randall Cobb, he might be the best wide receiver.
Rigel still thinks Randall Cobb's on the Packers.
He probably does. Jordy Nelson's not coming back, Rigel. Okay? Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb are not coming back. You do not have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball.
Has Jordy Nelson retired?
I don't know. I think Rigel should pick him up and put him in his team. So I think this is great. It's horrible. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's so fantastic because no matter what happens here, Randall Cobb will not become the wide receiver one because Brandon Cooks has taken that role before on the Rams team. And Brandon Cooks, as much as he gets concussed, still is very talented and is still a good player when he's healthy. The other thing is that a wide receiver who does not have the speed anymore, because Randall Cobb is on the wrong side of 30, and he does not have the speed, he does not have the ability anymore to run an offense as a wide receiver one. So just because, even if you lost Will Fuller due to trade, does not make Randall Cobb's stock go up. It makes whoever the fuck your wide receiver for in the Texans is, whoever knows who he is, have a better game. That's all. Rigel, bad, dumb.
I can see you feel very passionate about this.
I hate stupid trades.
And I love that about you. I mean, my main point to add to this is I picked Randall Cobb up off the waiver wire like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I never put him in my starting lineup. He was always on my bench, and I dropped him after maybe 2 or 3 weeks. If it was because Will Fuller was supposed to, he was rumored to be traded, then I understand it a little bit more. But if you don't know that information, then it just doesn't really make much sense to me. You're giving away a solid, if you even want to flex him, Mark Andrews, which I had done multiple times before I traded him. With Gronk, that could be a lethal combo. And you're trading that away for Randall Cobb. I mean, hey, who knows? Me and Jeff might look like dumbasses in a couple weeks from now. But
Randall Cobb has his second resurgence somehow, some way.
It could
I will
happen.
eat shit on it. But now if
we're
I'm
fair on this program, I will gladly eat shit.
Exactly. But now if I was Rigel, you go for Brandon Cooks with that trade. I get it. Randall fucking Cobb. That's all I got to say. All right.
Brandon Cooks, I'd be trading a defense for. So.
So, guys, we want to get to our new segment this week. We call it the Trench Report.
Yes.
We're going to bring in our trench expert himself because he knows it. He's been there. He's done it. He has been involved with it. He loves it. He lives in it. And goddamn it, does he know it well.
Boy, do
we got
I
our
know
guy, Stephen
the
Handy.
trench.
Steve, would you like
Wow.
to tell us a little bit about the Trench Report?
So basically, the Trend Report, new segment for this show, gonna be based on the bottom 4 of the league. We got 12 people in the league. Bottom 4 is the trench, because that's the Sacco Bowl, So, Trench Report. We're just gonna talk about the bottom 4 and see where it goes.
Good to have you, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. So, guys, we do have Stephen Handy himself heading up the bottom of the league. We got Jason as the number 11 man, and then we got Bruce as the number 10 and Lazo as the number 9. Now, I will say that Steve's team, I do want to give you all the credit because the past couple weeks, your squad's been looking good. I don't think it's been fluky. I think it's been, your players have been coming out. They've been showing out well.
So my fate currently is the fact that everyone has, career games against me.
And you are correct because your points against is bad.
But severe.
The point I wanted to bring up, though, besides the past 2 weeks, you scored over 120 once.
Oh yeah,
So,
I would love to point out
very quickly here.
All right.
Steve all time has almost 250 more points scored than him than any other player.
And that's
highest.
Yeah.
And that's the fairness of Steve. I see him as somebody that's going to climb his way out of the bottom of the trench.
Oh,
now,
see, I know how to get out of the trench.
Steve
and that's
has
have
his shovel.
experience.
I have
Hey,
his
if
shovel.
you all
many
remember from last year,
experience.
everybody's like, oh, Steve's going to be the Sacco, Steve's going to be this. He climbed out of it, man, and his squad ended up decent
Shovel
at the end.
in hand.
It just sucks he can't pull it around to get to the playoffs. It's all. But hey, better to not be the Sacco. Now, my pick of the Sacco, because I think their squad is the most suspect, is Jason Team Mr. Katana. I think that
I feel for you,
he just doesn't have the talent on the team. I mean, he doesn't have anybody at running back. I mean, Devin Singletary and Henderson are your two best running backs, and I mean,
Devin Singletary is disappointing.
He is disappointing.
He's really
because
disappointing.
Zach Moss, he got the goal line.
Zach Moss is a pass catcher, man. Zach Moss
He's
is
a
flex.
pass catcher,
He's
but
a great flex play.
he gets the red zone carries. And at the end of the
That's
day,
what I mean,
that's
yeah.
what you need. I mean, Devin Singletary gets yards, but he doesn't have the red zone threat.
Yeah, and he's not a pass catcher. So, there's no PPR value
Steve,
at all.
I'm thinking if you play Jason's team in the Sacco, that you can pull out a victory, I think.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't think I'm going to be in the Sacco. I'm trying to hit at least
as
9
of right now, you
right
have
now.
that Sacco bye, that first round bye. You
Currently.
don't want that.
That's the wrong side of the bye.
But I'm playing Mr. Boomer Bust this week, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
you know?
that is
We'll
very,
see
that
what
is very
happens.
true. I do want to go a little bit into our other friend of the show, producer Bruce is here. So his team now, he's been plagued by injuries terribly.
Chilling at the number 9
I do feel for Bruce pretty heavily because of the fact that, hey man, Eckler and Chubb going down for a large part of the season is rough. But, Bruce, I want you to say a couple things about your team because I know you're in a rough spot right now.
Hey man, I just gotta say that I did a good rebuild and I lost a key matchup against Aiden this week, and I really think my team has a lot of potential, but it fucking sucks that I have to play Chris this week because nobody wants to play Chris any week. This sucks, and I feel like I might stay in the trench because I do not like my next 2 weeks matchups, and that's all I have to say.
I sure as hell don't want to play Chris, and what I will say,
Scary.
speaking of Chris,
Scary.
is that I don't know what my next 2 weeks matchup is because I've followed Chris's advice. Chris, shout out. I don't look at my matchup until it advances into the next week. I was able to only find out that I was playing Rob tonight, but it served me well throughout the season. Your matchup against Bruce, GG. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. So, Steve, unless you got anything else in the trench report, I think that really covers
Realistically,
ourselves.
I mean, we could talk about the number 8 spot.
So, guys, we just want to thank you all for joining us for another week of the Grease League podcast. Week 9. Wish you all the best of luck. Suck a dick. Hope I get a fucking win this week. Honest to God. Lazo, if you beat me, I might just give up. But I won't, sadly, because this game keeps bringing me back. JB, you want a word?
I mean, Jeff, I can't believe you're, 4-4 right
Yep.
now? Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it ended up this way, but
the 500.
if there's anybody that knows how to retool, it's this guy. I may give it to my friend Steve here before I go with our great sponsors of the program.
A great sponsor, Jameson. You want to have a great time? Drink some Jameson. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean,
You heard the man. I mean, friend of the program.
It's simple.
Jameson, Irish whiskey. Drink it with your friends. Drink it with your family. Drink it by yourself. Just enjoy Jameson. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. We've very much enjoyed having you. We hope that you can join us next week. God bless America.
And Toto.